Hey guys, wanted to do a little video on e-scouting for black bears, especially here in the northern Rockies like Montana and Idaho. A little bit of Washington probably works, Wyoming. A lot of bear in this area. Spring bear is coming up here next month, so literally 5-6 weeks till spring bear season. So I'm excited. I know a lot of people have problems finding bears, and so I've been hunting bears for a few years now, 5-6 years, and I've killed 4. One year it was really hard, I didn't get one, but it turns out a lot of people didn't get one that year. It was like a super hard winter, and then out of nowhere it was a super strong summer, just came right in, and so it just threw a lot of people off. And it's really hard to spring bear hunt in that kind of weather. I know Brian Call and Brad Hunt had an issue with bears on that year. So things happen, but for the most part you can find what you're looking for, just by e-scouting. You could e-scout and find a spot where a bear would want to be. And I have successfully done that. I don't even know how many times. I have just sat on the computer on Onyx on my phone and have found a spot that I think a bear might like to be in, hiked in there a couple miles, and sure enough, there's a bear. So not always you're going to be like in position. It's hard to say like you're going to be in a spot like 400 yards or 300 yards away from a spot, but I could definitely guarantee like a good 1,000 yards, and then you'll see a bear, you close the distance. So I'm pretty good at finding bears now, just from running around the mountains and looking for them for a few years. I spent a lot of time on Onyx and Google Maps, and I have for years, even before I've been hunting. So I've really learned how to use this stuff. Take it with a grain of salt, but I do think you'll learn a lot. It's kind of hard to find somebody to share this information with you. I know I'm wearing the Treeline Pursuits t-shirt, and I've met Mark Livesey a few times, and he's a great guy. He's very knowledgeable on how to use all that information, but he doesn't always get exactly into details of, okay, what are you looking for? He'll teach you how to find how to use the tools to find what you're looking for, but what are you looking for? That's the question. So today I'm going to show you what are you looking for if you're spring bear hunting in northern Rockies and you got Onyx. So I'll show you what to look for. This might be a long video. I got some drinks with me. I got Onyx here open on my laptop, and I'll do a little screen recording and throw that in here. So, all right, we're about to record. Okay, so first thing I want to show you is I'm picking a spot that is non-huntable. I don't want to use a spot and blow it up for everybody. I don't want to send 2,000 people into a tiny little drainage and blow somebody's spot up, or just make a nightmare for someone. So I'm just going to pick a spot that could hold bears, probably does hold bears, but you can't go and hunt there. So that way I could still show you. I was thinking of using a national park or something. This is pretty much the same thing. So right here there's a place called Sun River Game Preserve. So this is the Bob Marshall Wilderness Complex. There's multiple wildernesses that make up this complex, but there's a spot inside of it that's non-huntable. So I just wanted to show that to you. That way you guys aren't just going to go running in there April 15th and illegally harvest a black bear. So I'm going to go to my Onyx. Okay. Full screen this. Okay, so this is unit 150. Here's 424, 442. This spot right here with the pinkish boundary does not have a hunting unit designated to it. It is a non-huntable area. I think you could maybe hunt like small game or something, but no big game hunting in here whatsoever year round. It's a very big area, and I'm gonna, I've never been in here actually. I've been in the Bob Marshall numerous times, but I've never been in here. So I'm going to pick a spot within this boundary that's going to hold bears. So the first thing is, all this green means this is public land. This is national forest or state forest. I believe this darker green is state forest and this lighter green is national forest. So That's the first thing you need to find out, obviously, is can you hunt this? You know, there's a lot of places that bears would like to be that's private land. You just can't go in there. Obviously, first step is finding a spot you can get in there. Second, I'm going to disable this national forest just to get the green off. And I'm going to leave, I'm just take that off. And then hunting districts will keep it on so I don't go out of the boundary. And then portions. Okay, so what else am I going to turn on? Active wildfire, very important. If there's a fire burning in there right now, you're probably not going to run into bears right now. They might put it out the day before opening day. And maybe they'll allow you to go in there. Maybe you can find a way in there where nobody will know. But bears ain't going to be in there if everything just burned down. So that's a good one to know that if there is a fire going on or not. Cell coverage could be very helpful to determine where you might want to go, especially if you don't have an inReach. I have an inReach, so this is not a problem for me anymore. Next one, let's turn on trails. So wilderness areas, we know that all this green is wilderness. This is the Bob Marshall Wilderness, so no motorized access, no carts, no dollies, no motors, nothing like that. Drones, I think, are banned. There's only one spot where helicopters and airplanes can land, and that just got grandfathered in. So obviously got to figure out access. So can you access that spot? If it's a wilderness area, just got to remember you can't use a bike, you can't use a trike, you can't use a cart, you can't fly yourself in there. So I'm going to disable that for now. Slope angle, we're going to probably use this here in a little bit, but for now it's going to be very, very confusing to turn that on. Okay. Roads, trails, and recreation. So trails and trail slope, I like to keep those on. Trail mileages, that's a secondary step, so we're going to disable that for now. Recreation sites, I like seeing that because if you have a big park or a campground that you're not aware of, you might have no idea, but there's going to be 2,000 people there, parked there the day you come in, and you might not even know that there's a campsite or whatever, but this will prevent that from happening. Roadless areas, also this will just turn everything pink right now, so very helpful for finding bears. We know that everything in this area is going to be roadless. This is a Bob Marshall Wilderness. There's no roads at all. And maybe I'll go into finding a bear in a logging area too, but for now I'm going to go with the spot that nobody can go in. So roadless areas I'm going to disable because we know that is all roadless. Motorized roads and trails, we should also enable this for the most part. We know that there's no motorized access in the Bob Marshall, so we're going to disable that. And that's it. Just trails, slope, which makes the trail stand out a little bit. If you do have a slope on a trail, more than likely that is a much more common walked on trail. So just keep that in mind. Some trails might not show up here. If they do, there might not be slope. So obviously, if you have all the information about a trail on here, it's probably pretty well used, and bears might not like hanging around it. They'll probably be on it for 5 minutes, they'll get off of it. So we'll shut that down. Trees, crops, and soil. So timber cuts, we'll enable that. Historic wildfire, we will enable that. That will tell you a lot as well. Bears and wildfire do go hand in hand oftentimes, but not in the way that people might think. So just keep that in mind as well. Everything else is disabled. Wildlife layers, I don't think I have anything open on here. Yeah, okay. And just like that, Montana. I got Montana only because I live in Montana, so that's the only one I paid for. But so first off, we're zooming in. I got the whole unit in front of me. Just gonna kind of help me see the layout of the land. So it looks like we got a much drier spot right here. Probably used to be a fire there. If there hasn't been a fire there, it's very dry now. Then we got a much wetter spot right here. You see that dark green? Then we got super high elevation peaks. And then we got more green here. You could obviously see that this is a river. This is a river or a creek. Right here is probably a river or a creek. Right here is a river or a creek. Right here is a river or a creek. Very important when you're looking for bears. So people will say that, man, I don't even know how many podcasts I've heard. People are saying, find the food, find the bears. If you find the food, you're going to find the bears. That, in my opinion, is so far from the truth. If food was what mattered, if food was just the end-all, be-all deciding factor, they would be on the golf courses. All the big bears are going to be on golf courses. All the big bears are going to be in the city parks. And there are a lot of bears in city parks, but there are also a lot of bears up in the mountains, so far away from fertilizer, from groomed golf courses, from parks, from irrigation. So that, in my opinion, in my experience, that is just not true. Bears do not decide where to live just based on food. From my experience, bears have been a lot more likely to pick a spot based on shelter and security, which are kind of the same thing, versus food, versus water, versus noise, versus access, versus walking distance. They really, really like the shelter. So I'm going to drink my coffee. I made a nice latte here a couple hours ago. Not hours, an hour ago, and it's in an insulated cup, so it's pretty hot. Oh, perfect. Perfect temperature to drink. Okay, so what do bears need? So when I'm looking for a bear spot, I'm always looking for water. Bears can't go, 3-4 days without water, maybe even less than that. Kind of like humans, humans can't go 3 days without water. And shelter and security. So what does that mean? You're probably not going to find a good monster bear denned up at the trailhead. You'll drive up to the trailhead, you park at the trailhead, there's a big national forest sign, whatever, you're about to start walking. You get up to the sign, you're very unlikely just going to walk 10 steps and you're going to be in the bear zone. Oftentimes there's going to be so much traffic, there's going to be so much scent, there's going to be wrappers, there's going to be shoelaces, calls, threads off people's clothing, dryer lint. I mean, you name it, it's going to be at the trailhead. Gas, diesel, snacks, tire treads, you name it. There's going to be a million things that a bear doesn't want to smell. A bear will oftentimes go to a trailhead because of the food there, but it is not going to be during the daylight hours. So people will leave their garbage and their trash, and they're going to drive off, and the wrappers are going to fly out of their truck bed, and it's going to get all over there in that trailhead spot. And so bears will get there and eat that stuff up at night. They will not be there during the day. And they will go miles to get away from that spot before daybreak. So where are bears during the day? Well, oftentimes they will be in a feeding area very, very close to where they're going to bed. So oftentimes they will bed in their feeding area. Oftentimes they will go back to their dens, and oftentimes they will bed in the randomest spots because they're moving. And so bears have this weird cycle where they get out of the dens. In my area, it's like late April, maybe even like super early May. They're finally starting to get out of the dens. In the super high elevations, they're getting out of the dens in like late May, potentially, when the snow's just starting to melt up high. And these bears are very, very sluggish. They take naps constantly. They feed like for 5 minutes, and they sit back down, and they walk 10 steps, and they lay back down, and they're just so sluggish. They're so slow. And Oftentimes they will come out, they'll feed, and they will just go back to their dens. I don't know if they just don't feel safe enough to leave their dens, to go too far from their dens because they feel weak. But oftentimes they will just live around their den forever, for weeks before they get the plug out of their butt. They get their digestive system moving. They get all their muscles working. It's kind of like if you've ever fasted, like if you've gone 3, 4, 5 days without a single calorie, you start feeling so weak, so sluggish. Every little thing is irritating. Every little thing hurts. You got aches and pains in all your joints. That's kind of how a bear would probably feel after not eating for months. They get out of the den and everything hurts. Everything is just not moving right. You touch a rock and it hurts your paws. Everything just is so irritating. And so I feel like they just live a lot. They spend a lot of time right there, living right by their dens when they first come out, and they eat what's around their den. So they will den oftentimes on the north side or in the shaded side, be it east or west, but there's going to be a lot of snow there, and that snow is not going to melt for a little bit potentially. But they ain't going to be on the south facing slopes like everybody talks about when they get out of their dens. I've seen more bears on east and west slopes than south facing slopes spring bear hunting. And I don't know, maybe I just go out too early or something, but they will not be on south facing slopes when they are that sluggish. So they will come out, they'll run around, and they'll run around a little bit. They'll go back into their dens. If they don't go back in their dens, they'll just bed down right where they're at. They'll get up in an hour. They'll feed for another 5 minutes. They'll bed down for another hour. They'll just keep doing that for days. And so last year I shot my bear on, was it April 25th or 26th, something like that. So only like 10 days after opening day. And I think that bear just came out of hibernation and was still trying to get his system going. So depending on what time of the year you're trying to target bears will determine of where you're gonna go. So if you're planning on going opening day, very likely they're not going to be on the south facing slopes. If you live at a high enough elevation where there might be snow on opening day on those slopes. If there's snow on the south facing slopes on opening day, the bears are probably still denned. Like 90% of them are still denned up. You're just way too early. If there is no snow, even on the north slope, which is the case for us halfway through bear season, they will likely be, depending on the temperature. So, where do I begin? If it's 60 and below, you can oftentimes expect them to be on the south slope. If it is over 60, which later in the spring bear season it does get to higher than 60, even 70. 2 years ago I was like 74 where I was hunting. And if it's above 60, oftentimes it'll be on the north slope in the shade, waiting for the dark to come out. Man, this is a whole nother world. So I'm gonna zoom in right here to a random spot. Okay, we start seeing trails pop up. So we got, looks like a trail right here, kind of walking along the river bottom. We have trails right here, walking this little ridge and down the creek. And we got a fire. This fire is 10 years old. That is a very good age to be focused on a fire. Looks like right here, all this stuff also burned at one point. Okay, so looks to me like all of this also burned at one point. You can tell that this burned if you zoom in and wait for the trees to, wait for this to kind of clear up. There you go. You got deadfall. So it doesn't tell me what year this fire was, but all of these matchsticks, that was a fire. It's got to load a little bit. So okay, so we know we have a fire here. which is kind of what I guessed. So we got probably a pretty good fire right here. This whole thing, where it looks like there should be trees, where it should look kind of like this, it looks barren. So we're going to keep that in mind. This used to be a fire. Bears like fires, but they do not like being right in the middle of it. So if I'm looking at a fire area, I'll tell you where I would not look for a bear. I would not look for a bear right here. That's going to be a waste of time. That bear is going to be in the wide open. So let's zoom in here. That bear is going to be in the wide open. Early season, maybe when there's still snow patches in here, a bear might walk through here. But during season, when it's 50, 60, 70 degrees, this spot is going to be baking hot in the sun with no shade whatsoever. And the feed is going to burn out within a couple of days. So the feed is just not going to be edible whatsoever within a couple of days. Now, these patches of trees, that's a different story. So now I'm not saying there might be a bear right here. I'm just you gotta put together a lot of little pieces to find the higher concentrations. Right here there might be a bear, but it's like a 5% chance, right? So I'm going to show you how to stack up the odds to get to a 90% chance bear spot. This right here is so much better. You got feed right here in the wide open. That's going to start greening up immediately. As soon as the snow melts, there's going to be green right here, right? And the bear could come out of this shaded area. That's going to keep him or her cool during the day and protected and safe and feel safe, like there's a place to run away to if there's any trouble. And then come out here at night and feed. And depending on how secure that bear feels, he may be right here during the daytime. So depending on the traffic and whatnot, he may be there during the daytime. According to this, the nearest trails are, let's center this. According to this, the nearest trails are right here, not walking right through there. So that bear could be very comfortable just living right here. That looks like maybe, what is that, half a mile? Maybe half a mile from the trail. The nearest water looks like is right here. So the bear would have to go half a mile for water. That's a little far, but not out of possibilities. So what's a better spot for bears? Right here. You see this little thing? This is incredible. Look at all of the options. You have little avalanche slides here. You have a creek that goes through here. Because it's named, there's probably water here year-round. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on. And here's Prairie Reef, of course. This is a super picturesque spot. Everybody freaking comes hiking here and takes pictures here. But everybody hikes up to the top of that and they turn around and they go back. Nobody comes in and hikes around these basins. This is grizzly central. This is just horrendous, hard to walk through. Bears love this. So here is the most recent fire. So something to keep in mind. We have a very recent fire and we have an old fire that's not even labeled on Onyx anymore. Very good potential that a bear might want to hang around both of these because it has the newer growth in here and less thick stuff to walk through that hasn't fully grown up yet. This stuff's going to have old growth and it's going to probably come back pretty thick with lots of small bushes and small trees. It's going to be a little bit hard to walk through, but still potentially feeling pretty secure. So keep that in mind. Then you got this spot right here. Very open, very easy to walk through, but also very high potential that this is going to burn out within a few days of greening up. So with this much open rock, the sunlight, the heat coming off these rocks is going to burn everything up, and there's not going to be much to eat here. So keep that in mind. Don't focus on openings like that. So I'm going to zoom out just kind of give you a little bit of a little taste of what we got going on here. This is obviously a very big area, and they want to protect elk and probably bears and stuff in here. So there's definitely game in here, but something to look for is, you know, from a distance, you got this very big ridge. Bears like ridges, but they don't necessarily like walking the tops of them. They will be on the finger ridges. They don't really like being on these. This is mountain goat country. I mean, this is steep rock with not a thing growing on it. Bears don't really thrive well on that, and they don't like going far for water either. So what's a place I would focus on in this whole picture? I would probably focus on the next best thing, the next highest thing, which to me looks like this knob and this knob right here. And just so happens that we're close to an old fire. I will probably start focusing on this. So let's zoom in on here. It's called Sheep Mountain. And perfect, we got Bear Creek, so of course it's probably named because people ran into bears here. So we got a very high mountain, 8,000 feet. 8,000 feet in my area is probably not going to thaw out until July. This is going to be covered in snow for a very long time. But what is not going to be covered in snow for a long time? You got all these patches. So little patchy here, little patchy here, patches here, patches here. This probably got mildly burned with this Sheep Mountain fire. And of course, Bear Creek goes right through here. So I also wanted to point out, that this is right next to the Sawtooth Range. So we got the Sawtooth Mountain Range right here. So very fitting. White Cabin, Elk Hill, Arsenic Mountain, just perfect. But yeah, Sawtooth Mountains, and then right to the left of it we got Sheep Mountain. So where on this mountain would I hunt for bears? Well, let's keep zooming in, get a little bit of a better layout of the land. We do want a south face, so we do want something that's facing the sunlight. As soon as the bears start coming out of hibernation, they're going to try to feed. And so there's going to be no feed on the north slope. They're going to have to either cross over to the south side or kind of hang out on that eastish, westish, south side. So out of here, something to keep in mind would be a place like this, you know, much lower elevation. Much lower elevation than, you know, Sheep Mountain, 8,000 feet. This looks like, well, let's turn on the layers. 7,000. Okay. 7,000 is a little bit high. In my area, that's going to be a later season thing. But I just want to show you kind of what I'm looking for. I'm going to turn 3D on. Okay, and here we are, we're looking north. So the side that's facing us is a south face, is a south facing slope. This is one of the things that I'd be strongly looking for, is heavy timber like this with openings, patches like this. You know, you have a burn right here and you have a patch right here. This just looks money to me. So the fact that you have a whole bunch of new growth in this burn, you have lots of heavy cover, so bears would like to run in here and hide during the day, and if they ever feel scared or nervous or whatever, they'd hide there during the night, daytime, whenever. And then you have what looks to be a drainage. So here's a drainage, and there's probably water in here. We just don't know how much. If it's named, it'll probably be running year-round somewhat, and this one doesn't look like it's named at all, so the nearest water might be right here. That's a little far. If this drainage does not have water in it, a bear would have to go from here, you know, from this theoretical point, would have to go all the way down 2 miles to get down to water. 2 miles is way too far. Bear will not want to go 2 miles for water. So let me rephrase. Here's Sheep Mountain, 8,000 feet. Don't even bother looking for bears on this face until the last day of season. That is going to be covered in snow, and if it's not covered in snow, there's going to be almost nothing to eat. Everything below that, that's in these trees, especially around these rocks, is going to warm up much, much faster, especially places like this, is going to green up much faster, and is not going to dry up and die as fast as opposed to stuff greening up here and immediately getting baked off. So, oh, here we go. So here's Furman Creek. So this is the spot we were just talking about right here. And there's a creek that's named on this side. So a bear does not have to walk from here down to Bear Creek. A bear is much closer to walk to Furman Creek. Now, Furman Creek, is that a viable option? Is there trails, is there trucks, is there roads, is there campsites all over here to scare a bear away? In this case, there is not. The nearest trail is over here, and there's another burn down there. Looks like there's a bunch of game trails or outfitter trails, horse packing trails, you name it, but nothing coming up to Furman Creek, so a bear will feel safe here. This is like 2 miles to the nearest trail, so a bear will feel safe coming down for water on this side. So let me turn this around. There we go. So if there's water here, which we know there's probably going to be water here, this is a named creek, and the name goes all the way up pretty high on the mountain. If this is named creek here, there's a burn here, and there's an opening right here, why not hunt bears right in this spot? You got thick cover on both sides, you got openings, you got a little bit of a burn patches, and you immediately have water. So one thing I've found is bears don't necessarily like to live at the water. They don't like to camp right at the water and circle it. They will run down there, get water as fast as they can, go back up. Unless it's like just baking hot, like 100 degrees, they're probably going to be hanging like right here. So in this really, really thick spot with water, if the water stops and starts right here, they're going to be hanging right here. If the water's starting right here, they're going to be hanging right here. But if it's like 100 degrees out, they're just going to be sitting in that creek bottom in the shade, probably even on the north side in the shade, wherever they could find. So here looks like there's another drainage on the north face. So this is kind of more like the north face of the mountain, and all this heavy timber tells me there's probably a lot of water right there. Freeze out creek. So a bear will probably be hanging right up in here during the hottest day of the year, and you know, that would be August or whatever, but during July or June or whenever your spring bear season is, and it's hot out, they'll probably be hanging out in here, and they'll be waiting until dark to come out, and they'll probably come out and start feeding like on this stuff. Or if it's really, really hot, and it's been hot, they will feed on the north face. So they will actually come out of this thick stuff and come and feed on this. So this has been in the shade most of the day. This stuff that's in here is not as burned out as the stuff that's right here, if that makes sense. So I'm going to angle this map again. Here we are, we're looking north, so everything facing us is the south face. So what if all the snow is gone off this whole mountain? Where are you going to go? In Montana, this is probably not going to thaw out till July, maybe even August. There's going to be snow up here. But say there is no snow here, and you know, we want to go bear hunt. If there's no snow on this peak and you're spring bear hunting, the bears are not going to be here. This is all going to be dead. There's going to be nothing to eat here unless it's in the creek bottom, and heat is a big factor and bears coming out. I mean, they got this big coat. They got 4, 5-inch, 6-inch fur that's usually dark black. They're going to be baking hot in the sun. So if you're packing a backpack and you're wearing a t-shirt and you're hot being in the sunlight, they are not going to be in the sunlight. I mean, you think about where you'd want to be if you were packing a black coat around in 75, 80, 90 degree weather. So temperature is definitely a big factor. So since we're looking north again, let's say this is early season and there's still snow all the way up to here. Where would I go? Well, I'd go probably right here. I'd go right here, or I'd go right here. I'd walk these ridges. I'd get up on this spot and I'd walk all that. I'd walk up to the snow line and I'd circle back and I'd walk back down. Bears are not just going to be running around in deep snow when there's stuff that's thawed out that they could eat. Okay, so we got it. Let's step back. Bears need water and they need shelter. So if you have a good creek running up a drainage, you have good timber in many spots to hide, and you have openings to eat. There's nothing to eat in the thick timber, not until like August, September when the huckleberries come in. But during spring, there's nothing to eat in that timber. They might like throw rocks up, dig stumps up, and eat some bugs and ants or whatever, but that's just them killing time waiting for stuff to green up. But during the day, during normal season when stuff is starting to green up, they're going to be eating stuff in here. They're going to be eating stuff right here. They're going to be eating stuff right here, and occasionally coming into the burn. During the daytime, they're probably going to be bedded in this thick stuff. Unless it's really hot, they're going to be bedded near the water. If it's very dry and hot, they're going to be bedded near the water. If it's pretty wet and not hot, they could be bedded anywhere. They could be bedded in here. They could be bedded right here. Oftentimes, bears don't like going very far for their food and their water. So, as close as you can be to water, the better. So, obviously, from here to here is much closer than from here to here. I have not seen many bears walk this far for water when they could just spend their time here, go down for water, come back up, go down for water, come back up. This is way easier on their body, on their muscles, on their stealthiness, on their safety. So keep that in mind, is how far is the water? I would not be bear hunting right here if there's no water in this drainage. And if the nearest water was right here. That is just too far for a bear to walk. This will all be green and he will never touch it. He'll be picking the freaking thing off, the tiny little shrubs off the ground right here because it's close to water. So, I think we've dissected that enough. What about if there's a trail? Okay, so here's some trails. We know that this darker red spot is a little bit steeper. This greener spot's a little bit milder. Where would you go? You got this spot. Where would you go near a trail? So obviously, this is a hiking trail. We don't know what the traffic is like here. There might be a lot of people walking this trail. There might be one person a year walking this trail. Say this is a heavily walked trail. Where would the bears be in this instance? Well, I'll tell you where they won't be. This spot right here is not going to be their home. They may accidentally walk through here and immediately regret it. And someone might say, well, I shot a bear right here. Well, there might be one bear here and there might be 500 bears 20 feet away from that, right? So anything within, I would say, 300 yards of this trail is not worth looking at. So this spot right here, depending on the traffic, if this is a heavily walked trail, bears aren't going to be hanging in here. They're going to maybe pass through here onto a better spot, but they're not going to be hanging in here. So where would they be hanging? All of this is bear country galore. If there's people walking through here, we got maybe 300-400 yards, maybe 200 yards. I don't know, it says 500 feet. So what is that, like 200, 180 yards or so? 180 yards. Okay, so this spot potentially much more likely to be kind of up in this country right here, which is great. You know, you could waltz through here, go 100 miles an hour, pretend you're a hiker, get over to this corner, and then right here you get off trail and you start walking this ridge quietly, carefully, and every opportunity you get, you know, you stop right here and you start glassing. And you start glassing, you start looking for a bear here. As you get closer, you're going to keep walking this ridge. You walk over here, you kind of assess the options, you look how green it is, and then you walk over here. And you pick a spot somewhere right here and you start glassing this basin. That would be what I would do. So this is a south facing slope, this is a north facing slope. But there's still plenty of cover for a bear on this south facing stuff. There's going to be no feed in here until August, September. All the feed's going to be up here in this open stuff right here. So I would get off trail, I would walk this ridge, I'd walk here. This looks pretty steep right in here, but just as an example, I'd walk this and I'd walk up here to this point. And I'd sit here on this point and I would glass this spot, I'd glass this spot, I'd glass this spot, I'd glass here as far as you can see, because it looks like it starts wrapping around. You might not be able to see all of this, and you'll be able to see most of this spot. You just won't be able to see back here probably, and then you'll be able to see most of this. Very good bear spots. So it looks like you have very heavy timber for cover, you got very open for feed, and then you probably have water right here. So because we got multiple drainage thing going on right here, looks like we have water coming in that crack, and we have water coming in this crack, meeting together and rolling down this mountain. There's probably water in here because of how thick this is. This is also a north face, so this water will last in here much longer, and it won't evaporate like water that would be running down the south side. So right up in here, plenty of water. So if it's late spring, this is going to be much cooler. So this ridge and everything on the north side is going to be much cooler than everything right here in this bald black rock. So later in the spring, I would be focusing in some of these areas. So this stuff's going to start greening up already on the north face later in the spring. And all of this is going to be really good if there's water running down this. So I think we've dissected the crap out of this mountain. Let's zoom out and find a different bear spot. So obviously this is non-huntable. There's going to be bears here. Don't go in there and try hunting them. You're going to get arrested and fined and get all your tags taken away. So this is a non-huntable area, just letting you know. Let's see, where else would I go? Areas that are this high probably have a lot of grizzlies on them. 8,000, almost 9,000 feet. A lot of grizzlies in this area, so just keep that in mind if you're hunting Montana. But I'll find a different spot and see if I could come up with something that, you know, if I would hunt it. Okay, we're looking. This looks very dry, very burned out. I won't even waste my time here. Keep going. Okay, look at this. Look at this face. Not dried out at all. Plenty of water, plenty of moisture, enough for a lot of trees, very high up. Okay, this is very interesting to me now. We have a burn back here, which may or may not be, you know, bears may or may not like that, depending on your area. If there's stuff like this, they might not go to a burn because there's enough to eat and stuff like this. Okay, so we have a trail. Looks like there's a river running through here. We can see the squigglies down here. We have a trail, so this is the Continental Divide Scenic Trail. This is a very, very heavily walked trail. Everybody and their mom walks this trail. Okay, so bear's probably not going to be hanging right here. Bear's probably not going to be hanging right here. Bear's probably not going to be hanging right here. This is too close to this much action. I hate to say it, but you kind of have to get away from people and walk somewhere else. Okay, looks like we have another creek, Miners Creek. We're still looking south, or we're still looking north. We're seeing the south. And we got these elevation bands. We have some, looks like avalanche slides, some heavy timber. This to me looks gorgeous. So what I would do is I'd walk this trail. I'd get to this bend, and I'd climb off of this bend, and I'd start walking up here. And I'd get off that trail. That's what, 500 feet? I'd get off that trail, oh, probably 300 yards, which would probably end you up somewhere around here. So that is what I would do. I would climb up here, get to a spot where I could see. I'd climb up here, and then I would start glassing all of this. All of this looks freaking perfect. So right here, nice opening with very heavy timber and water right below it. Same thing here, lots of patches, lots of openings, lots of feed, heavy timber. Looks like very, very heavy timber right here, very, very heavy timber right here, and very close to water. Nobody hikes in this basin. The trail is, 2 miles away. The trail is all the way over here. Nobody's going to be walking up in here and disturbing this spot, other than hunters, of course. So you got this spot. This is all south facing. You're probably going to have a shadow from this peak that the mouse is running on. You're probably going to have a shadow on to these mountains early in the day and earlier in the season. So it's going to take a bit for the sun to kind of get down into these areas at first. April 15th versus June 15th. The light accessing this is going to be very different. So early season, all the light's going to be on top. So I'll be focusing on like this run. I'll be focusing on some of this right here. I'll be focusing on this close to the green. We got a lot of brown, very brown, nothing to eat here, but a lot of green right here. So I'll be focusing on this stuff. I'll be focusing on all these patches. I'll be focusing on these patches and kind of hitting the tops of this, because this is still going to be in the shade. So later in the season, once it starts getting really hot, all the stuff up here is going to be burning out, and this stuff's going to start coming in. And I will start focusing on these areas and this area, and even further I'd be focusing on pockets like this later in the season. So this would be higher elevation, so following the snow line, but a lot more likely to not be in the shade. So actually, if you hike this up this creek, you'll find there's going to be a lot of snow right here, a tremendous amount of snow right here, and there's going to be flowers up here, yellow flowers and blossoms and wildflowers and stuff coming in, and it's going to take forever for the snow down in here to melt. And you might be thinking, well, I'm too high, there's still a lot of snow here. There's a lot of snow here, there's not a lot of snow up here. This stuff's going to start melting as soon as the light touches it, but this stuff's not going to have light touching it until way later in the year, when the sun is high in the sky, pointing down in here and melting all of that. So let's summarize. Don't hunt bears here. You may find a small bear that doesn't know what he's doing running around in here, because it's so close to people, to snacks left on the trail, and so close to water, and it's not high in the snow. But the bigger bears are going to be in this stuff right here. So this ridge would be awesome to walk later in the season if you can. This ridge would be awesome to walk earlier in the season if you can. Walking this ridge would be awesome earlier in the season. All of this would be something I'd be super, super focused on. If you're just not finding bears in there, this has everything. This has water, this has feed, this has cover, this has security and protection. Obviously, another spot would be later in the season up here if there's water. This is too close to the trail, way too close to the trail. It's also way too steep, so this would be very hard for you to walk, very hard for you to stay efficient on. You might be able to walk this ridge all the way up, but you won't be able to walk like from here up this avalanche chute. This would be almost impossible. So let's actually see how steep that is. I don't remember. Was it this one? No. Slope angle. So bears like certain slopes, but look at this. Look at all this red. All this red is very, very hard for a human to walk on. Bears will be here. Bears will definitely like this kind of stuff. This purple is going to be mountain goat country, bighorn sheep country. Bears will maybe eventually cross this, but this is not a bear's favorite place to be. They like this green. They like this green stuff, and occasionally kind of getting into this red stuff if they really want some security in the rocks. But just keep in mind that this red stuff is going to be very hard for you to walk. So again, walking from here, this is all green. You could definitely keep walking this green all the way up here if the snow allows. But walking up here is going to be very, very, very tough. Walking up this is going to be very tough. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, you got very, very dark purple right here. This is like cliffs. This is probably going to have snow on it for a long time because there's not going to be much sun getting in there. But this is cliffs, so bears not going to be finding much to eat on rocks. Rocks just don't grow stuff very well, but they will find stuff growing on the south side in this less steep area where the trees can kind of actually grab some dirt and hold on. So just to keep that in mind. Look at this other place that we were just looking at. This is green, very easy to walk up this. So if you wanted to walk up this ridge, this would be very easy to do. Come up here, walk up here and glass into this bowl a little bit, or walk up here in this green and glass into this bowl. What you're not going to be doing is you're not going to be starting here and walking up that. That's going to be brutal. Or walking up this. This is going to be absolutely brutal. So just keep that in mind. Looks like here's some purple. This is going to be almost impossible. If you can walk this, you'll need trekking poles. You'll need very good boots. You're going to need a lighter pack. But why go up here? This is just going to make you, this is going to kill you so fast. It's going to take you forever. You're going to make a whole bunch of noise and throw a bunch of rocks down. They're going to just make so much noise and crash, and you're going to be huffing and puffing, and you're going to be sweating your butt off, drinking all your water for no reason when you could just be starting here. It's a longer of a walk, but you could start here, more in the shade, in the trees, and get up to the same spot. So, or even start here and walk up this creek and achieve the same results. So just keep that in mind. You know, there's always better ways to hike up this type of stuff. All right, I'm gonna take the slope angle off. So there you go. I got a few spots chosen to show you where to look for. So let's also go into something like this. This is just crazy. You got a mountain that looks like this, and then 5 miles away you got a mountain that looks like this. There's going to be almost no bears. Sorry, I'm repositioning. There's going to be almost no bears on this mountain, and all of them are going to be in here. So see the difference? Do you see what the terrain looks like? How this is different? This may be harder to get to because there's a trail walking right through here. This may be harder to get to, but what point is it going to an easier spot if there's no bears there? Yeah, you might be able to drive right up with your truck to the top of that, but if there's no bears there, what good is it? So I'm just saying that bears like security, and they're kind of hard to get to sometimes. So there have been bears, obviously, in golf courses. There have been bears in parks, but are they the bears you're after? I'm not. All right, let's see what's wrong with this spot. This is a spot I will not hunt. Obviously, there's a trail walking right through the good feeding zone. That's a big no-no. If there's a bunch of traffic on here, there's not going to be a bear anywhere in this bowl ever, unless this trail was closed off. Next, there's almost no security. There's almost nothing to hide in. A bear will not be standing right here because it will have to scramble up an avalanche rock slide to come up here to hide. This is not conducive to a bear's abilities. Maybe a mountain goat or a tar or a bighorn or something, but not a bear. Running down here into this stuff, this is not thick enough for a bear. This is just not good thick timber for cover. So this stuff back here, that's a lot better. But a bear will have to run out of here to go up here. So don't think that you're just going to, hike up to this spot right here and you're just going to glass this bowl and you're going to find a bear. Very, very, very unlikely you're going to find a bear here pretty much ever. This spot too, looks like there's no water anywhere near here. The water is probably all the way down here. So these bears will have to live low and stay close to the water, because coming from all the way up here going down for water is going to be absolutely ridiculous. Very, very energy wasteful. Now, what about this spot? Look at that. That's different. Looks like we got water a little bit closer. We got cover all the way to the water. We have openings. We have a little bit of a burn. Looks like a burn. We got meadows. We got heavy, heavy timber going all the way up. And all the way on the north side looks like there's also heavy timber. And there's a lake. This trail, I would stay away from this trail as much as possible. Looks like a dead end, so most people don't take dead end trails to a random gravel slide. So this one's probably okay, but I will stay away from that trail. That's a non-bear conducive trail. Too many people. So in this case, where would I focus? Well, I'd go in here in these meadows, or I'd go right up in here in this bowl. Very close to water. Obviously water's right here. Very close to heavy timber. On the south slope. And if it wanted to hide, if it wanted to get in the shade, shade is very close, and it can make it over to the other side into the super shade in 5 minutes. A bear going from here to here takes 5 minutes, as opposed to a bear being right here going up and over is going to take forever. A bear's not going to want to do that. So a bear, a bear's going to want to be a little bit closer to shade as much as possible. So there you have it. I got 3 things to kind of show you what to look for and what not to look for. I would never try looking for a bear in a mountain that looks like this. There has probably not been a bear there since the fire. Whatever fire that went through here and burned this up. Certain things I just won't go. Like this mountain here, Lookout Mountain. I won't be on these faces. This is just a waste of time. On the other hand, this area right here, very, very nice. This area right here could be very, very nice early season if you're staying away from this trail enough. Well, of course, another bear creek. So I'm in the zone. I've kind of come to find out that people are naming things because of what they found there. You name a lake because of the crayfish or the trout or whatever, the birds that are visiting that area. So there's a Baldy Bear Creek. So Another bear creek. So definitely bears like to be in these spots that I just named, that I just showed. Now let's say it is just very, very hot. You still got seasons still going. Where would you look? Well, I'd start focusing on the north face. This stuff's way too thick, not much to eat, and let's say the stuff on the south face is burned out. So it's already way late. Everything is gone on the south faces. Where would we go? Okay, so we're looking south. Whoops. I was hoping that thing would point me south. Okay, so we're looking south, so everything that we can see now is a north slope. This stuff is very, very high elevation. This is mountain goat country. Okay, still looking for something a little bit more human friendly. All this stuff is very steep. White Bear Creek, of course. Okay, now we're getting into the burn. Don't necessarily want to be in the burn. Burns close by are okay, but I don't want to be just in the burn. Okay, and then we talked about this sheep mountain or whatever, so we did talk about this one already. And its north face is very thick, very hard to hunt. Bears do live there. I'm just trying to find a spot where I could find a good glassing knob and a place that I could shoot from, because it'll be very hard to find a bear in that thick stuff and trying to shoot it. Okay, and there's the edge of our, well, let's get out of the burn. There's the edge of our unit. Get my coffee. Okay, I've come back to this numerous times already. So we're looking south. So what we can see is the north slopes. Where do bears go? Obviously there's bears all over here. So where do they go during the summer heat? So late spring, early summer. Where do they go? Well, they're going to be on the north faces. So all of this, this is a north face. Very thick, very shaded, nice cover, cold, or I should say cool compared to everything else. There's water here. I would definitely focus on areas like this. So this is the north face, very cool in here. This is high elevation with probably running water running down this, and thick cover during the heat of the day. In the evening or at night, they're going to start coming out and feeding here on this north face. So this is all north face. They'll be starting to feed like right up in here. They'll be starting to feed right up in here. This is much cooler, way less burned out, and all this stuff came in. You know, all the flowers and all the grass came in way later than the south facing stuff. In this case, all the south facing stuff is almost burned up, or it's already so high and so thick that the nutrition in it is not concentrated. The bears like the short the really short, thin, small grass that just comes up because they don't have to eat a lot of it to get a super dense amount of nutrients. To eat the 6-inch stuff, you know, you have to eat all that to get, you know, a tiny amount of nutrients, versus if they eat that super tiny little grass shoot, they get packed full of nutrients. Way less fiber, way more calories in those. So I'd be focusing on stuff like this. This looks burned out, but that's okay. There's probably going to be flowers, wildflowers. There's probably going to be grasses. I'd be focused on a place like this. And I'd be focusing on a place like this, especially in these greener areas. You got green here, you got green here. Way more likely to hold a bear. Same thing on this face. You got very thick, nice cover right here. There's probably going to be snow still kind of held up in the shade right here, late season, and it's going to start slowly melting. And the bears will be there in that snow during the heat of the day, and then coming out and feeding on stuff like this. They'd be feeding right up in here. They'd be feeding on this stuff, feeding on this, feeding on this. Just kind of depends on how comfortable they are and how far they want to go. But there's probably going to be water running down this most of the summer while that snow melts and coming down for this. If this water dries up and this is their closest water source, they will probably move down and start hanging out like in here and coming down for water, because at that point there's going to be huckleberries, and all of this is going to start coming in with huckleberries to eat in the shade. So they come down for water and they'll start eating the huckleberries here. Some of the big bears will stay high. They won't come down, they won't follow water. They will stay high. They'll be walking these ridges and these rocks, and they'll be finding little pockets of snow melt, like glaciers. So there's probably going to be like little pockets of water here and there. There's probably going to be like a little pocket of water right there, a little pocket of water right here. There's going to be a little runoff here. There's probably just going to be little pockets of water, and those bears, those monster bears, are going to be kind of hanging in these cliffs, living in the rocks, in the shade, and getting water from puddles, basically. But you get kind of two camps. You get the camp that goes down for the berries. They go down for all the berries that are coming in down low, where it's starting to warm up, and the berries are coming in down low. And then you got some bears that go up really high, and they're following the flowers, and they're following the grass all the way up past tree line, or up to tree line, because as soon as this stuff starts melting and this is all getting grass and flowers, this stuff down here is already getting berries. And so you kind of have two camps. And that's why in the summertime it's so hard to find bears, because they could really be anywhere. You got some that are down here in the campgrounds, in parking lots, looking for berries. You got some that are up here by alpine lakes and hiking trails to summits and stuff, because they're trying to get to the flowers and the grass. So they could really be anywhere, and it's so hard to hunt them late season. So if at all possible, hunt them as early as possible when they're just getting out of their dens. And same thing here. There's going to be some bears in here like late in the year. July, August, September, October. This stuff's going to start getting covered in snow, and so they're going to start moving down. In October, they could literally be anywhere. They're going to be hunting. They're going to be running around campgrounds. They're going to be getting into people's garbage. It's so hard to pinpoint a bear in October. They could just be anywhere. But there you go. That's kind of the gist of what I'm looking for during spring bear season here in Montana. I'm assuming this kind of applies for Idaho and Wyoming. You know, terrain is very similar. Mountain country is very similar. So I just kind of showed you what I'm looking for to avoid at all costs, and what I'm looking for to find at all costs. And if you stack those things together, you know, you got water, you got shelter, you got feed, you got security, you got distance from trails, you got sunlight, you got flowers and grass, you got berries, you could just start pinpointing those areas. And some of those really big bears, they will have all of that within a mile their entire life. And they will go down for water. They will come up for grass and flowers. They'll go down for berries. They'll come up for berries. They've got snow. They've got rocks. They've got heavy timber. They've got open patches for grass early in the year. They will spend their entire life barely walking a mile. And I feel like the older the bear is, the less they will walk. And they will find those areas where they have to walk almost nothing, and they will live in this tiny little bedroom their entire life. And they will fight every single bear they can for that spot. And the bigger bears will obviously win. The younger bears will be forced to run down, run away, run towards people, towards trails, towards less desirable areas where they have to go more than a mile for water, or more than a mile for feed, or a couple miles, 3, 4, 5 miles throughout the spring and summer for feed. So just letting you know that some of those really big bears are really, really, really hard to find, because you're looking for a needle in a haystack. That bear will not leave his droppings. He will not leave his tracks. He will not leave a fur ball. He will not leave anything, because he will walk such a small little bedroom, from the bed to the bathroom and back every day and all year long, that you will just never find him. And some of those bears exist, and it's kind of our goal every single year to find a bear like that, of that caliber, with that kind of skill set, that's just evaded people its entire life, and you may have been the first person that's ever seen that bear. So there you have it. It's been kind of a long video. I hope this helped. If you have any questions, please write them in the description or in the comment section. I read every comment. I respond to almost everything. I'll try to get around to everything, and if you have any questions, I can maybe make a follow-up video to answer them. But that's kind of what I look for spring bear hunting, and hopefully this helps someone. So thanks guys for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, all the things, and good luck out there. Shoot a big one.